Hey, David Brewster here with a new episode of Scales and Tales, and this is Nuno Bettencourt's Pentatonic Mirror Tapping. And I've had some requests to feature more from this monster guitarist, Nuno Bettencourt. Definitely, I've been a fan of Nuno and following him since I was a teenager, and I was watching MTV in the afternoon. I think it was their old Hard 30 or Hard 60 show, and Mother Don't Want to Go to School Today. The music video came on. It knocked my socks off. I was like, who is Extreme? I ran out and bought their album, and I've been a fan ever since. Definitely a dynamite guitarist. And this pentatonic mirror tapping idea is something Nuno actually did during his solo back in the Porno Graffiti tour, like around the early 90s, 92 or whatever. And I remember seeing it, in some footage back then. And then I recently saw some footage, Extreme's touring over in Europe right now. And I saw a clip from a few days ago, and Nuno did the pentatonic mirror tapping. I was like, hey, I remember that lick. And then I had the light bulb moment like, well, hey, let's make a lesson based around that because it's really cool. It definitely forces you to think about the notes you're playing and tapping and really fleshes pentatonic scales out on the guitar in a very different way. So if this sounds cool, buckle up because here we go. Okay, to get started here, we're going to put this in the key of A. Now, we are tuned down a half step in this lesson, and that's because I have two clips of Nuno playing different versions of this idea, this pentatonic mirror tapping, and he was tuned down a half step in those clips. So I just matched his tuning so we can keep everything in the same tuning and uniformed here. But to get started, let's just put this in the key of A minor, and just think of the A minor pentatonic box right there. Now, we're get rid of your pick because we're going to be tapping through these scales, so we don't need a pick for this. And the first example here, we're really just going to mirror exactly what we're doing with the fret hand. One tap note per fretted note like this. And that's basically what we're doing right there. I'm literally tapping each note. I'm literally tapping each note of that scale an octave higher, right? So that really is kind of mirror tapping right there. And then Nuno, when he typically does this, he'll basically do an additional hammer-on for each note like this. That kind of idea. So we're doing that A to C and tapping that A note, and then doing that A to C and tapping the C note there. Like that. And then start on that high C. And kind of come down the scale like that. Okay, now here's a clip of Nuno playing a version or variation of this lick just a few days ago on Extreme's tour over in Europe that's happening. And notice that he's doing A minor pentatonic, but it's not the box. It's the shape right before the box, right here, right? And then he's basically mirror tapping that, an octave higher. So here's the clip of Nuno doing this, and I'm going to break it down. So in that clip, Nuno was doing this. One more time. And he stops on that D note right there on the B string like that. And it almost has like a little harmonic, kind of like chime in a way. I don't think he actually tapped a harmonic. I think it was just kind of like this weird feedback on that last note or something. Something like that. And that's basically taking a different position of A minor pentatonic, that one. And then we're tapping it. Like that. And you can actually go all the way through it. You could descend. Kind of play with it all up and down like we did with the box earlier. But that Nuno clip right there, he was doing. Okay, so here's another clip of Nuno, and this is him playing a variation of this idea, and this was during the Porno Graffiti tour, like in 1990, 91, somewhere around there. He's actually wearing a porno graffiti hat, which is cool. And then notice in the clip, even though like it's kind of his face and then the camera pans to his hand so you can kind of see, but now he's incorporating two pentatonic positions. He's starting with this one, and then he shifts into the box and descends. So he ascends one and descends the other, like this. So now we're doing this. Something like that. So we're starting with this position of A minor pentatonic and ascending there, and then we're shifting and descending the box. Right? And we're doing this pentatonic mirror tapping the entire time. So really slow. First position, now shift into the box, and then once you get up there, then descend with pull-offs like this. And it sounds like he doubles up that C pattern and then ends with the A. Something like that. Like this. It kind of gives it like an ending there at the end. So that's really interesting because now we're not only tapping through one pentatonic position, we're tapping and moving through two. So if you have your thinking cap on, we can basically take this idea and flesh out all 5 positions of the minor pentatonic scale. And, let's just lock in to that position right there for your fret hand, and then we're going to investigate different positions, with your tapping hand. So there's that shape. Right above it's the box, right? So we're already playing the lower shape right there, and we could tap the higher notes out of the box and turn it into a tapping lick like this. Right? And literally all we're doing there is just tapping the top part of the box, the notes from the box fingering, and we're turning that into a tapping lick. So let's play with the shape right after the box right here. Right? You really have to know what you're doing when you're thinking about this, because you're locking in with your fret hand in one position and tapping a completely different scale shape, with your tapping hand like that. That's really tough. Now let's do it again. Let's go up another pentatonic position right here. That's tricky right there. That's tricky because you're doing opposite things with both hands. Right? And then you've got... Right? And then right there. So that's really tricky. And then the shape after that. Right? And then after that shape, we're basically back to Nuno's original idea right there. With those two positions, kind of mirror tap like that. So this is just an idea I'm kind of sharing here, where you could take an idea from somebody like Nuno Bettencourt, add some of your own ideas and concepts to it, and recycle it and change it into something else. All right, that's going to wrap this episode of Scales and Tales with this look at Nuno Bettencourt's pentatonic mirror tapping. And I'm really just kind of serving up the basic idea from Nuno and then some variations here that I shared. And you could take this ball and run with it and create all sorts of different things. You could use other scales and tonalities, tons of stuff. And also you may have noticed I'm really just using my index and middle finger to tap with. You could experiment with tapping with other fingers. But those are kind of my two go-to as far as tapping. Sometimes I do tap with my third. I rarely ever tap with my pinky. I'm not Buckethead, so I'm not really used to doing that kind of stuff. Or Jeff Watson or somebody. But, I was really just tapping with my index and middle. You could experiment with maybe index and third and middle and kind of, change it up a little bit. But it's really just the concept I'm sharing here. It's just an idea that came from Nuno. I remember, checking it out a long time ago and sitting there in my bedroom just kind of working with it. And then I forgot about it. And it wasn't until a couple days ago when I saw Nuno in a recent clip. And I was like, oh yeah, the pentatonic mirror tapping. And like I said, that's when I had the light bulb moment and made this lesson. So it's a cool idea. It may spawn some additional cool ideas, in your playing. Really exciting and just different sounding stuff. It sounds cool. It sounds weird when you whip this stuff out. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to my lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.